How long does it take to find a piece of music? This is the 20-year story of one of Disney's most underrated attractions, and its music that couldn't be found.
Opening of the Walt Disney Studios, take one.
Lights. Camera.
Moteur, ça tourne.
Action.
In 2002, Disneyland Paris opened its second park, Walt Disney Studio Park. The smaller and emptier park left people feeling disappointed compared to its big brother, while Disneyland Paris was a highly thought out park with a distinct style and attention to detail. The newer park felt half-baked. Studio Park used the idea of being in a movie studio as its basis. Not a bad idea on paper, but its final product felt lackluster and cheap, copying attractions like the Hollywood Tower Hotel and Aerosmith from other parks to fill the voids. It had nothing to make it stand out. Well, almost nothing.
The Walt Disney Studios proudly presents the last but not the least, Cinémagique!
Cinémagique is a theatre show / film that opened with the Walt Disney Studio Park on the 16th of March 2002. The film starred Martin Short as George, an audience member who gets transported into the film itself by a wizard played by Alan Cumming. The film follows George trying to get back to our world and is transported into different films throughout history. Following George is Marguerite, played by Julie Delpy. The film itself is an amazing homage to all cinema and how far the medium has come. From the Lumiere silent films of the late 19th century, to the Charlie Chaplin era films, to Once Upon a Time in the West and other spaghetti westerns, to Star Wars and Titanic, all the way up to 2002 when the film premiered. I seen Cinémagique for the first time when I was around 4. It was my first time in Disneyland, so I was blown away by everything around me, but something about Cinémagique really stuck with me. I was lucky enough to go back to Disneyland about 2 or 3 times during my childhood, and I remember seeing it every time I went back. Since then, I have fallen in love with movies, and more specifically, movie soundtracks. John Williams, Hans Zimmer, Michael Giacchino, Alan Silvestri, Ludwig Göransson, Ennio Morricone, Randy Newman, and so many others. About 2 years ago, I was about to visit Disneyland Paris with my family. It had been over 10 years since I was last there. Before I went back, I decided to research some attractions there to jog my memory, and out of nowhere, I seen Cinémagique. I'd completely forgotten about it, but once I started watching it online, all the memories started flooding back to me. Being 10 years older, I could appreciate it in an entirely different way, and one thing that caught my attention was the music. There was something so classic and recognisable about the music, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I just assumed it was an original piece written for the film. But as the weeks went on, I listened to it more. I couldn't get it out of my head. I had to find out what the music was. It wasn't on Spotify, there was no actual details about it on YouTube or Google, just the theme itself. By the time we were going to Disneyland, I figured I'd watch it in person and see if it was in the credits, because all of the credits in the online versions were either shaky or just not even in the video. So, I get to Paris, go to the studio theatre, and it was gone. Turns out, in 2017, after a 15-year run of Cinémagique, it was replaced by the Marvel Superheroes United stunt show. This didn't last too long either, because when I went in 2022, there was an hour-long National Geographic show which actually put me to sleep. Turns out, after Cinémagique, Marvel Superheroes United began in 2018, only to be replaced by the Symphony for Our World National Geographic film. Now, a Pixar musical plays in the studio theatre. It was so annoying not being able to see Cinémagique in the proper way it was intended after years of not seeing the film. But I still didn't have an answer. I still couldn't find the music. So, during the film, the main theme from Gone with the Wind, composed by Max Steiner, plays. The way it was orchestrated in the respective scene blends nicely into the finale of Cinémagique. This led me to believe that the Gone with the Wind theme was the Cinémagique theme. And yes, I didn't know the Gone with the Wind theme at the big old age of 21, leave me alone. After doing some more research, which was asking my mum, she explained that the Gone with the Wind theme had, nothing to do with the main theme. So, I was back to square one. I searched and searched and searched for the main theme, but couldn't get any results. So, where's the one place you would go after not being able to find any results? Wikipedia, a Disneyland Paris guide website. Obviously. In my defense, Cinémagique isn't that well known. Almost everyone I know that has been to Disneyland Paris doesn't know what it is, and there's barely anything about it online, which is so frustrating to me. Cinémagique is such a creative show with very advanced stage and film techniques. There are basic effects during the movie, like fake bullet smoke during the shootout scene and light rain drizzling down when George is walking down the street all sad. The screen actually opens up for George to walk back to our world, and when the French knight throws his sword at the screen, a massive sword prop rips right through the screen and lands on the stage. The film implements George into the pre-existing movie so well, you can honestly barely tell which shots are him on a set or him superimposing the pre-existing film. It's such an airtight film packed with humour, heart, character and of course music, which, yeah, I'm getting a bit off track here, but I just wanted to emphasise how underrated I think this film is. If you haven't given it a watch yet, please do. So, back to the theme. This website has a trivia section under Cinémagique, and the first line of this trivia section: Cinémagique takes its main theme from Le Parapluie de Cherbourg, with additional original music by Bruce Broughton. Finally, an actual answer. Straight away I listened to the soundtrack for Le Parapluie de Cherbourg, composed by Michael Legrand. I finally found some evidence of a theme after years of not being able to get anything. But something wasn't right. So, The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, yeah, I know that's not the proper name, but I just don't want to upset any more French people, is a musical. And its main song, I Will Wait For You, uses the theme as the melody. It's the film's main theme, but it's widely known for the song. The song's actually been covered quite a bit by people like Andy Williams, Connie Francis, Matt Monro, and Frank Sinatra. And while the song itself is great, it's not the exact same as Cinémagique. See if you can tell the difference. So, it turns out that the composer for Cinémagique, Bruce Broughton, who implemented so many different soundtracks from all eras of Hollywood, rearranged the main theme from The Umbrellas of Cherbourg to work as the Cinémagique's theme. For those of you who haven't seen Cinémagique, there's a small scene where George is walking down the street looking at two people singing and kissing. This is a scene from The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. So the entire idea has plenty of thought put into it. After all those years, I finally got my answer. While Cinémagique's soundtrack isn't available on any streaming services, it lives on with the film. Part of me actually likes how you can only experience the soundtrack by watching the film, which itself is also kind of lost. I think it's a real shame that Cinémagique was removed from Disneyland. I mean, it does make sense. Everything has its expiration date. It ran for over 15 years, and as Walt Disney said, Disneyland will never be completed. There will always be new ideas and attractions that we never could have imagined that will take over the older attractions. Hopefully, one day it might come back, or be remade with new movies and special effects. But even if it doesn't, it'll always live on in the music.